Hey everyone. So recently I covered some big topics like the China deal in the FOMC meeting. In this video, I want to quickly touch on those again because a lot has been happening in this space over the last 48 hours or so, and it's worth revisiting. Let's start by looking at the daily chart. This is where things stand right now. And yes, we've got the hourly view here too, but what I really want to highlight is the weekly chart. Take a look. It's still very green, which is a great sign. The weekly trend is what I'm focusing on because honestly, I'm not worried about the short-term noise. I'm not going to stress over what's happened in the last 24 hours. That's not where the big picture is. Instead, I'm looking at the broader trends from the past 7 to 14 days. All right, let's dive into what's been happening with the top 100 coins over the past week because it's been pretty exciting. We're seeing some serious movement here. Many of these coins are up by double digits, and some are even hitting gains of over 50%. That's huge, especially considering we're talking about the top 100 coins. Now, keep in mind, these coins have much higher liquidity and larger market caps, so it's usually harder to make them move like this. But when they do start climbing like this, it's a big deal. And here's the kicker. If the top 100 are moving this much, you can bet that coins outside of the top 100 are seeing even crazier gains. You can really see it in the 1 week charts. It's all happening. All right, let's take a step back and look at the last week. I want to break down some of the trends we're seeing in the top 500 coins. If you dive into the top 500 alone, you'll notice something interesting. Many of these coins have seen massive gains. We're talking 60 to 40%, 50%, 40%, even 30% increases in just a week. A lot of them are showing double-digit moves, which is pretty incredible. But it doesn't stop there. If you zoom out even further beyond the top 500 and into the top 1,000, we're still seeing some significant movement. Now, keep in mind the market cap for these coins is much smaller, which makes it a lot easier for them to experience big price swings. A lot of these are illiquid meme coins, especially in the top 500. But even with that, we're starting to see some solid upward momentum. That said, we're not at the point where everything is going completely parabolic yet. Things are looking good, and there's definitely some excitement building, but we're still in the early stages of this trend. And that's what I really want to talk about. What's happening now, what's driving these moves, and where this could be headed next. All right, let's take a look at the current market snapshot. Bitcoin is still holding steady, just under 110K right now, sitting at 108K with a market cap of about 3.44 trillion. Ethereum is hovering around 2.7K, almost 2.8K, and XRP is sitting at $2.25. Now, we are seeing some sell-offs happening, but nothing too wild over the past 24 hours. However, if we zoom out to the last 7 days, we're definitely seeing some solid gains, which is always good news. Now, let's talk about the altcoin season index. Right now, it's sitting at about 29 out of 100. So we're not quite in the altcoin season zone just yet. That would be in the 75 to 100 range on this index. But once we hit that level, trust me, it's going to get really exciting. That's when we start to see some major action in the altcoin space. And, if you look back to December or even January, the altcoin season index during that time was flashing green big time. That's the kind of momentum we want to see again. Over the last 90 days, we've seen a lot of red in the market, especially among the top 100 coins. But here's the exciting part. Things are starting to shift. We're seeing a move back into the green, and that's a great sign. It shows that the market is beginning to bounce back and we could be on the verge of a solid rebound. Now, let's dive into some details. I want to touch on a post I made recently. Just the other day, I mentioned on my YouTube channel that June is shaping up to be a massive month for crypto. I even said that alt season could kick off towards the end of this month or early July. And guess what? We're already seeing early signs. Some altcoins are popping off right now. Axelar, for example, is up over 50% just today. These big moves are happening while many people are either sitting on the sidelines or just not paying attention. All right, let's take a closer look at Axelar as an example. Now, it's dipped a little bit right now, but here's the interesting part. Over the last 7 days, it's up nearly 46%. That's a huge jump. To give you some perspective, it went from around 30 cents to over 62 cents in a really short amount of time. Why is this happening? Well, we're starting to see more attention shifting toward altcoins, and trading volume is beginning to pick up in that space. Now, I'm not saying we're officially in altcoin season just yet, but let me tell you, we're getting really close. All right, let's talk about Bitcoin dominance. This is the big topic right now. So here's what we're looking at on the daily chart. We're hitting a pretty important resistance level at the moment. It's one of those nice little spots where things could get interesting. Now, ideally, we want to see this pattern of higher lows continue. It's been holding pretty well so far, but here's the key. We need to break through those recent lows from back in mid-May. That's the target. If we can push below that level, we'd be looking at a loss of around 62% dominance on the chart. Now, I get it, 3.45% might not sound like a massive drop, but in the world of Bitcoin dominance, that's significant. It's enough to shift the dynamics, and it's something we should all be keeping a close eye on. All right, this big drop in old coins, it's a pretty significant move. Now, think back to November when everything was going absolutely wild. Back then, the total drop we saw was around 11.32%. The initial drop, which actually gave a lot of old coins the momentum to push higher, was roughly 5.2%. So if we're looking at the 3.45% drop right now, that's already a pretty big deal as a starting point. Here's the thing. If we lose this level, I honestly think we could drop even further, potentially retesting the next support level, which would be about another 6% drop. But here's the key. We need to see some confirmation. If Bitcoin dominance officially tops out, that's when things get really interesting, because it could signal that alt season is finally here. When we think about the market right now, a lot of focus is on some of the altcoins I've been covering here on the channel. You've heard me mention XRP, HBAR, XLM, and others. Let's break it down, starting with HBAR. HBAR is in this really tight coiled position right now. We're seeing it trade sideways in a downtrend, basically consolidating. And honestly, the same goes for XRP. But here's the thing. If you look closely at XRP, we've got a higher low forming, which is great to see. This level is something we want to hold on to. Now, here's where things get interesting. What we're seeing with these coins is just this constant uptrend chop. Does that ring a bell for anyone? If it doesn't, let's zoom out and take a look at the weekly chart. When we do that, it really starts to make sense. You can see exactly what I mean by this uptrend chop. This isn't new. We've seen these patterns all throughout 2022 and even leading into where we are now. First, let's look at this initial uptrend chop we were in, right? Everything's moving sideways, then boom, we get the big news. XRP is not a security. That news pushed us up and we broke to the upside again. But then what happens? More chopping. Now let's talk about this next phase. We had a downtrend chop, a bit sluggish, but it started transitioning into a slight uptrend chop. And then, get this, we got that big breakout. But honestly, most of what we've been seeing is just consolidation. And that's exactly where we are right now, just chopping along in this nice little uptrend pattern. Now, here's what I'm watching for. A big break to the upside. We might see a bit more sideways action first, but I still expect a lot of movement in the altcoin market as we head toward the end of the month. I'm definitely keeping a close eye on XRP because it's been a major player in all this action. But let's not forget, stocks are starting to rally too. All right, let's talk about the S&P 500 because this is the one to watch right now. We're so close, like ridiculously close to hitting a brand new all-time high. We're talking less than 2%, about 2.03% away from it. That's huge. And here's why this matters. When the S&P 500 hits that milestone, it's going to light a fire under crypto. We could see a massive parabolic move as crypto catches up. But, and this is important, we might see a bit of back and forth action before that happens. If you look back to earlier this year, around the start of June, we had a similar move. There was about a 3% run up, but it took a while. It stretched from June 2nd to June 11th. So yeah, this kind of thing can take time, but when it happens, it's going to be big. All right, so here's the deal. This might take a little more time to play out, but honestly, stocks are looking pretty solid right now. On top of that, we've got some big news. The US and China just held trade talks in London on the 9th. And let me tell you, this could be a game changer. I mentioned this in a previous video, so if you missed it, definitely go check that out for the full breakdown. But here's the key point. These trade talks could be one of the biggest catalysts for the markets moving forward. And we just got a major update from Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, who's saying that a wave of new trade deals is on the way. Seriously, this is huge.
You guys have set the deadline for early July to have more trade deals. We're expecting more to come. What can you tell us about the progress of any of the ones you're working on? We thought Japan, India were close. We got this framework from the UK, but what else is coming there?
Oh, there are so many coming, but when you've got Scott, Jameson, and I spending, 25 hours locked in a room with the Chinese, we're not really doing the other deals. Yes, our teams are moving them forward, but now we're going to be focused, starting today, we're going to be focused on other deals, We're going to get them done. We're in good shape with lots of countries, but good shape isn't good enough for the United States of America. We want great deals that are fundamental for America. We can get them. We can get them done. We need to open these other countries' markets. Our farmers, our ranchers, our fishermen, they are going to have just a great time. Our machinists, we sell lots of equipment overseas. Boeing always does amazingly well in these deals. So this is the key to us. Can we open up our exports and end this nonsense of a $1.2 trillion trade deficit? And that's what we're working on. And you're going to see deal after deal. This is going to start coming next week and the week after and the week after. We've got lots of them in the hopper. We just want to make sure they're the best deal we possibly can make. We don't want to rush. And Donald Trump is never going to accept a rush. He only accepts the best from us. And we're going to give it to him.
We received several notable updates recently. Firstly, the United States and Mexico are nearing the finalization of a new trade agreement, which was announced on the 10th and is considered highly positive news. Additionally, a significant development emerged from trade negotiations between the United States and China. Following 2 days of discussions in London, both nations have agreed in principle to a preliminary framework for a new trade deal. This agreement marks a key step forward in trade relations between the two countries. China's Vice Commerce Minister Alicia Yang shared that the framework aims to carry out the agreements made between the two leaders during their June 5th phone call and an earlier meeting in Geneva. The results of the recent talks in London will now be sent back to both heads of state for review. In principle, both sides have agreed on a framework to put these decisions into action. This progress ultimately led to the announcement from Donald Trump. Great news. Our trade deal with China is finalized pending final approval from President Xi. Under the agreement, China will provide us with full magnets and any necessary rare earth materials up front. In return, we'll deliver on our commitments, including welcoming Chinese students to our colleges and universities, a partnership that's always worked well. Here's the breakdown. We're getting 55% tariffs while China has 10%. Overall, the relationship is strong, and this is a huge step forward. It's a big deal and very promising for the future. Looking ahead, don't forget about the Fed FOMC meeting happening next week, June 17th, 18th. The 18th is the big day we're all watching. There's been a lot of chatter about Trump pushing for the Fed to cut interest rates by a full point, but who knows if that's actually going to happen. Everyone's keeping an eye on inflation, which just came in steady at 2.4%. Even with all the tariff drama, true inflation sits at 1.94%. So is now really the right time to be cutting rates? It's possible they'll just hit pause for June and July, then go for rate cuts in September. Honestly, I'd be fine with that. The real win here has been progress on the China deal. That's a big one. Honestly, I think this could be an even bigger catalyst than the Fed cutting rates. But hey, if we get both right, since we already have the China deal in place, that could be huge. Right now, all eyes are on the Fed. If they announce a rate cut, it's going to send the markets soaring. We could see a massive boost in both stocks and crypto. As for crypto, things are looking great, especially for altcoins. I really think we're getting close to alt season, and it's a good time to start paying attention to these opportunities. Personally, XRP is at the top of my list, but I'm also keeping an eye on HBAR and other altcoins. I believe they've got massive potential for the year ahead. Trade deals like these are a big win for the US market. They boost confidence among stock traders, which can drive stock prices up. And when stocks perform well, crypto often follows. Pretty exciting stuff, right? If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on more free content. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time. Peace.